He stepped onto the porch with a flashlight. Just boxers. Barefoot. And boom. The first shot hit his chest before he even said a word. March 10th, 2024. Whiteville, North Carolina. Jerry Driggers heard something outside his trailer. He thought it was just a raccoon. But it wasn't. It was 3 masked men. Waiting. One had a shotgun. One had a bat. One had nothing to lose. His wife was asleep inside. His daughter was 14. He had no weapon. But he stepped outside anyway. He died trying to protect them. And the killers? Still walking free. This is not fiction. This really happened. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because if it happened to Jerry, it could happen to any of us. It was 3:42 a.m. March 14th, 2024. Whiteville, North Carolina. Boom. The door flew open. Jerry Lee Driggers stood in his hallway. Barefoot. In his boxers. Holding a rusty old shotgun. He didn't yell. He didn't run. He just looked straight into the dark. 2 shadows rushed in. One had a crowbar. The other had a gun. They didn't say a word. They didn't expect him to stand there. Jerry shouted, "Get out my house!" They didn't move. Seconds later, shots rang out. Boom. Bang. A scream. Then silence. You're watching @Unbelievable True Story, where we only tell real stories. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. This happened to a real man. His name was Jerry Lee Driggers. He lived in a small home with a big front yard in a sleepy town called Whiteville in Columbus County, North Carolina. He was 67 years old. Jerry wasn't a fighter. He wasn't a hero. He just loved his home, his old truck, and his dog named Bullet. He grew up in that house. He buried his parents in that town. He painted the porch himself every spring. Jerry didn't expect to die that night. He was just trying to protect the place he loved most. That whole week, strange things had been happening in Whiteville. Mailboxes smashed. Car alarms going off in the middle of the night. Someone broke into Miss Janie's backyard. Folks were talking in whispers. But Jerry? He didn't scare easy. He kept a shotgun near the couch. Not loaded. Just in case. Everyone called him Mr. D. He fixed lawn mowers for people. He brought old dogs home from the shelter. He wore flannel shirts even in the summer. His wife died in 2012. Heart failure. After that, Jerry mostly kept to himself. But he never stopped waving at the neighbors. Never missed church on Sunday. On the day before he died, Jerry had coffee at the gas station. He talked to the clerk about the weather and said, "I think spring's coming early this year." No one knew that would be the last time they'd see him smile. That night, Jerry let Bullet out one last time. The stars were out. The porch light flickered, like always. He brushed his teeth. Set the alarm. Watched the 11 o'clock news. And then, somewhere around 3:42 a.m., he heard the front door jiggle. Jerry grabbed his shotgun. It hadn't been fired in 10 years. He stepped into the hallway. He didn't know that 2 men were already inside. One kicked the door open with a boot. The other raised a gun. They expected money. Jewelry. Maybe even drugs. But they didn't expect a man with a steel spine and no fear. Police believe the attackers had been watching the house. They came in through the front. No masks. Just hoodies pulled low. The man with the gun was 22. The one with the crowbar? Just 19. They didn't know Jerry had already called 911. The dispatcher heard Jerry say, "They're in my house. I got my gun. I ain't backing down." Those were his last recorded words. When Jerry raised his shotgun, the robbers panicked. The young one swung the crowbar first. Jerry fired. Missed. They wrestled. Crashed into the wall. Bullet, his dog, barked and charged. Gunfire echoed through the house. Jerry was shot twice, once in the chest, once in the arm. But he still stood. Still fought. Still screamed. The men ran. Blood on their shoes. Crowbar dropped on the porch. Jerry collapsed in the hallway. His dog laid next to him, whining. When police arrived minutes later, Jerry was gone. The whole town shook. People cried. People locked their doors. Pastor Johnson said, "He died protecting what mattered most, his home." That same day, Whiteville police arrested 2 suspects nearby. They had the stolen gun, bloody clothes, and Jerry's wallet. Their names were not released at first. But later, it came out they had long juvenile records. One had been out of jail just 2 months. This wasn't just a robbery. It was a test. A test of what a man will do when everything he loves is in danger. Jerry didn't run. Didn't hide. He faced death head-on with an old shotgun and a heart full of courage. According to the CDC, 2022, 1 in 4 men are victims of violent attacks or abuse in their lifetime. Jerry Lee Driggers became one of them. That's why we added a real self-defense course for men. Created by police and martial arts trainers. It teaches how to react fast, protect your space, and defend your home. The link's in the description and first pinned comment. Because sometimes, just one move can save your life. Now stay with me. Because we're about to break down who did it, how they got away, and what one mistake brought them down. The 2 men ran out Jerry's front door, tripping over flower pots, one of them bleeding from the arm. The old dog, Bullet, chased after them, barking like he'd seen the devil himself. The robbers didn't stop. They leapt over the fence. They disappeared into the trees behind Jerry's home. And for 5 long minutes, Whiteville was silent. When police arrived, they found the front door wide open. Jerry was on the floor. Shot twice. Eyes open. Dead. His shotgun was empty. His hand was still wrapped around it. And right next to him was his dog, licking his face like he could still wake him up. The town woke up fast. Word spread in minutes. The ambulance lights lit up the trees. Neighbors stood in their yards in bathrobes and boots. Nobody believed it. Not Jerry, they whispered. He never hurt nobody. Miss Janie cried right there on the sidewalk. She'd known Jerry since 1975. He fixed my radio last month, she said. Didn't even charge me. At first, police didn't know. There were no cameras near the house. No fingerprints on the shotgun. Just a crowbar and a few drops of blood. But that blood was gold. It gave them a DNA hit. The man they were looking for had already been arrested twice in the past year. His name, Tyrell Jones. Age, 22. Address, 5 blocks from Jerry's house. The second man was harder to trace. But someone called the tip line the next morning. A girl. She said, "I think my cousin was there. He came home with blood on his hands." His name was Deshaun D. Carter, 19. He lived in a foster home 3 towns over. Police found Tyrell first. He was hiding at his cousin's place. He didn't fight. He didn't run. He just said, "Man, I didn't mean for nobody to die." They cuffed him, read him his rights, and took him in. Deshaun was caught 2 days later, trying to hop a bus to Georgia. He had Jerry's wallet in his bag. They weren't there for revenge. They weren't there for drugs. They came because Jerry lived alone. Because he was old. Because they thought he wouldn't fight back. Police found texts between the two men. Tyrell. Let's hit that old white dude's place. Easy score. Dishon. He got a dog. Tyrell. Big one. But old. Bring the crowbar. They planned it. Laughed about it. Thought it'd be fast. They were wrong. It rained the day they buried him. The church was packed. Even the sheriff showed up. People spoke slow, their voices shaking. The pastor said, Jerry Lee Driggers wasn't rich. He wasn't loud. But he stood his ground when it mattered. His son, Michael, flew in from Texas. He hadn't seen his dad in 3 years. He cried the whole time. I should have called more, he whispered at the graveside. I should have been here. The DA pushed for first-degree murder. Tyrell's lawyer said, it wasn't supposed to be a killing. It was a robbery gone wrong. But the DA showed the texts. Showed the plan. And the jury? They didn't flinch. Dishon cried during questioning. He said, I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't mean for him to die. But they both went inside. They both knew Jerry was home. And they both ran when he bled. This story is real. Every detail came from police reports and court records. According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, 2023. 1 in 3 home invasions in the U.S. happen while the victim is present. That means most people have to choose. Run. Fight. Or die. Jerry chose to fight. With nothing but an old gun and guts. That's why we included a real self-defense training for men in the description and pinned comment. It's not for show. It's for people like Jerry. For when the dark comes through the door. Now stay close. Because in batch 3, we'll walk into the courtroom. Hear the killer's own words. And find out what Jerry's family did next. This next part? It'll break your heart. The courthouse was packed. March 27, 2024. Whiteville, North Carolina. Small town. Big pain. The whole town came out. Old men with canes. Mothers holding babies. Even kids skipping school. Everyone wanted to look those boys in the eye. Tyrell walked in first. Wearing a suit 3 sizes too big. Eyes down. No smile. No apology. Dishon came next. His hands were shaking. He looked like he wanted to disappear. But he couldn't. Not today. The judge was firm. The DA was ready. The defense was scrambling. The charges? First-degree murder. Burglary. Conspiracy to commit armed robbery. Possession of a firearm by a felon. First up, the neighbor who heard the shots. Old Mr. Lester. He said, I heard 3 booms. Then the dog barking like crazy. I looked out the window and I saw 2 shadows running. He pointed to Tyrell. That one there. I seen his jacket. Red stripe down the arm. Tyrell didn't look up. Then came the girl who called the tip line. She was only 16. She said, Dishon came home bleeding. Said they tried to rob a house but it went bad. I told him he needed to turn himself in. He just cried. The whole room was silent. Dishon wiped his face. Jerry's son takes the stand. Michael Driggers. Age 41. Big hands. Bigger heart. He hadn't cried in public in 20 years. But when he sat down and looked at Tyrell and Dishon, he broke. He said, that man gave you no reason to hate him. He was old. He was kind. He would have given you food if you asked. But you kicked down his door and shot him like a dog. He looked Deshawn in the eye and said, "You didn't just kill my dad. You killed my daughter's grandpa. You killed my peace." The judge had to pause court for 10 minutes. It was Tyrell's gun. .380 caliber. Registered to no one. Wiped clean. Except one tiny print on the trigger. Tyrell's. The prosecutor held it up. "You brought this to a robbery. You chambered a round. You pointed it. You pulled the trigger." She let the word sink. "You didn't stumble. You chose." Turns out, Tyrell talked in the holding cell. Didn't know the room was bugged. He told a guy in the next cell, "We thought he'd be asleep." Dude jumped up with a gun. "I panicked and fired. I just wanted out of there." The jury heard it all. So did the whole town. It took less than 5 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Tyrell was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Deshawn? He got 35 years. He'll be out when he's 54. If he makes it that far. After court, reporters rushed Michael. He said, "This ain't justice. Justice would be bringing my daddy back. This is just the end of a chapter." He looked into the cameras and said something that stuck. If you're listening, and you're out there thinking about robbing someone, think about their kids. Think about their dog. Think about your mom getting that prison call. Jerry's house was boarded up. Bullet, his old dog, now lived with Miss Janie. Every night, he still sat on the porch, waiting. Like he still thought Jerry would come back. The sheriff put extra patrols on that street. People started buying cameras, locks, and alarms. Some started taking classes, real self-defense courses. They didn't want to be the next story. And that's why we say this. We added a real combat defense course for men in the description and pinned comment. It was made by combat trainers and law enforcement. It teaches how to stay calm, act fast, and protect your home with purpose. Even if you've never trained before. 1 hour. That could save your life. The FBI Uniform Crime Report, 2023, says there were over 1 million home burglaries in the US last year. In nearly 30% of those, the homeowner was present. That's nearly 300,000 times a year someone faces what Jerry did. And most? They aren't ready. That's why we tell these stories. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. And we're not done yet. Because in Batch 4, we'll reveal the one piece of Jerry's story that shocked even the police. A note. Left behind. Hidden in a Bible. And it changed everything. After the trial ended. And the cameras left. And the town tried to breathe again. Michael went back to clean the house. His father's house still smelled like him. Old leather. Coffee. Dog fur. Gun oil. He walked room by room. Hand shaking. Heart pounding. In the bedroom. Everything was the same. Bed made. Slippers lined up by the closet. The picture of his wife, Michael's mama, still on the nightstand. She died in 2017. Jerry never moved it. But on the dresser? Tucked under an old Bible. Michael found a folded envelope. Yellowed at the edges. His name on it. To my son, in case I ever don't come home. Michael sat down on the edge of the bed. He opened it slowly. Started reading. Here's what it said. Hey boy. If you're reading this, I guess the good Lord called me up sooner than we planned. I hope it was quick. I hope I didn't scream too loud. I always wanted to go with my boots on. You know I kept this house armed. Not 'cause I was scared. but because I knew the world ain't always fair. I pray I took one with me. And if I didn't, don't blame yourself. Just love your babies. Keep the family close. And don't let this town turn mean. You hear me? Tell Bullet I said goodbye. Tell your sister I forgive her. And if they caught the ones who did this, don't hate them forever. Just don't forget me. Love you, son. Always. Daddy. Michael read it 3 times. Then he cried like he was 6 years old again. He folded the letter, put it in his wallet, and said out loud, I won't forget you, Daddy. I promise. That letter changed something. Michael posted it online. It went viral. Thousands shared it. People all over the country sent messages. This broke me. Your daddy was a hero. We need more men like him. Local churches started hosting free safety workshops. One martial arts teacher offered self-defense classes for seniors for free. Police started home check-ins for older residents. It was like the town wanted to make sure there'd never be another Jerry. Tyrell's mother speaks. A few weeks later, a local reporter went to Tyrell's mom's house. She answered the door holding a baby, tears in her eyes. She said, My son did a terrible thing. I raised him better than that. But life on the streets, it eats you. I'm sorry for what happened. Sorry for that old man. And sorry for the family. She paused, then said, But don't stop believing in young black boys. Not all of them are lost. He heard her words. And he didn't lash out. He said, I don't hate her. She's a mother. She's hurting too. We both lost something. And that's how healing starts. With one quiet, hard truth. The police returned weeks later to do a walkthrough. Check for missed evidence. One officer found something strange. A second set of boot prints. Small. Narrow. Like a teenage girl. But no other suspects were ever found. Some believe someone else planned the robbery. Maybe a girlfriend. Maybe a third accomplice who never entered the house. Or maybe it was just a neighborhood kid who saw too much and said nothing. But the case was officially closed. Still, questions remained. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. 2 months after the funeral, Michael got a call. It was a blocked number. A deep voice said, Your daddy was brave. But bravery don't stop bullets. Next time, stay out of it. Then they hung up. The number was untraceable. Who was it? A leftover member of the crew? A friend of Tyrell? A warning? Or just a sick prank? No one knows. But Michael started sleeping with his father's shotgun beside the bed. Just in case. And the house? It still stands. Quiet. Lonely. Like it's waiting. But the next chapter isn't done. Because in Batch 5 we'll reveal how this one crime changed gun laws in the county, sparked a national petition, and inspired a fight not for revenge, but for protection. Whiteville, North Carolina. March 14th, 2024. After the story hit the news, after the letter went viral, something started to grow. A petition, started by a young teacher named Lana Reyes. She didn't even know Jerry, but she was tired. Tired of watching older people get hurt. Tired of feeling helpless in her own town. The petition said, Every senior should have access to affordable home security and self-defense training. Jerry Lee Driggers was brave, but he should have had backup. It started with 100 signatures. Then 500. Then 5,000. Within a month, over 130,000 people had signed. Sheriff Dalton saw the numbers. He read the comments. He watched people cry at town hall. So he did something bold. He created a county-funded safety grant for seniors. Every resident over 65 would get a free in-home security consultation, a panic button system if they lived alone, and access to free personal defense training. He named it the Driggers Program. And when asked why, he said, "Because if we don't protect the people who built this town, we don't deserve to live in it." They held a second service. Smaller. Just family and old friends. Bullet's collar was placed next to Jerry's photo. Michael read part of the Bible Jerry kept by the bed. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for his friends. And then he said, "My daddy died defending the home he built." That's love. That's duty. That's who he was. Jerry wasn't a big man. But his story went far. A podcast picked it up. A small film company from Atlanta started talks for a documentary. A high school in nearby Elizabethtown added his story to a lesson on civic courage. And Michael? He got invited to speak at a local college. The topic? Why the average man still matters. He stood on stage, voice shaking, eyes full, and said, "My father wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. But he mattered. Because he stood his ground when it counted. And I think that's what real men do." But the story wasn't all inspiration. 2 months after the law passed, someone spray-painted Jerry's mailbox. "Snitches get stitches." Michael replaced it. Painted the next one red, white, and blue. Said, "Try again." No more messages came. But they stayed alert. Sometimes justice makes enemies. But it also builds allies. Rumors spread that Michael might run for office. He laughed at first. Then thought about it. Maybe the best way to protect folks is to fight smarter. Not just harder. He didn't say yes. Didn't say no. But the seed was planted. Michael visits the house every Sunday. He mows the yard. Feeds the birds. Talks to the wind. Sometimes he leaves a cold beer on the porch. Lets it sit for an hour. Then pours it out under the oak tree. He said it's for Daddy. Just in case he's listening. By summer 2024, Jerry's name was being said in places he'd never been. A national safety group used his story in a PSA. Don't wait until it's too late. Train today. Protect your home. Like Jerry did. They showed his picture. The porch. The boots. The Bible. It wasn't just a story anymore. It was a symbol. Of grit. Of family. Of what it means to protect what's yours. And that's why, if you're still listening, we added a free men's self-defense course in the description and pinned comment. Built by real combat trainers. It teaches how to fight back, fast. How to stop a threat. How to protect your space. You don't need a gym. Or experience. Just the will to survive. 1 hour. That could save your life. Because Jerry couldn't finish the fight. But maybe you can. Would you have answered the door? Would you have reacted fast enough? Would your neighbors have come to help? This is not fiction. Every detail is part of a real case that you can verify yourself. And today, Jerry's story still rings out like a shot in the night. And the house? Still there. Still standing. Like the man who built it. This was the story of Jerry Lee Driggers, a man who lived quiet and died loud, trying to protect what was his. If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to @ Unbelievable True Story, because every week we reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Our next case? It started with a missing backpack and ended with a freezer full of secrets. Stay tuned.